Hello, it's Kathy joining you again Monday afternoon. So 4:30 is the time. Or 4:33 if we're being exact. So thought I would hop on again today and talk a little bit more about kind of taking care of ourselves and planning things over the next few months. We're coming upon some holidays, and hopefully you have thought about what you want to do with your holidays. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today, so I can help you think about what you want your holidays to look like, and kind of looking at how to plan for the next few weeks so that you don't have such crazy schedules. And I know that it's hard when things are changing and your kids are doing different things, or your schedules at work maybe are different, or just having different, having families or more around and that kind of thing. So before I start that, I was going to talk a little bit about myself and kind of my journey to where I am now. So I started out, I've been a nurse for close to 40 years and got married at a young age and had 4 children pretty young. By the time I was 25, I had 4 kids from the age of 6 and under. And in that time frame, I went to college, got my nursing degree, and then started working as a nurse. And so I've been working as a nurse since then. And as I've kind of gone through my career over time, I went back to school, got my bachelor's, and then got my master's. And in all of that, I worked part-time until our youngest was probably a year or so, and then I've pretty much worked full-time since then. And so had to learn how to juggle family and responsibilities and being with my kids and doing things and with my husband. So we kind of teamed up and worked different shifts for a while until the kids got into school, and then changed things up. So, for most of my adult life, I've had kids and worked as a full-time, being full-time and being a mom. So I figured out over time some things that I wanted to change, and I'm hoping that with talking to you all over time, you'll understand how slowing down is kind of better than trying to pile on a bunch of things. And maybe you have to work full-time, but maybe you can think about whether you need to work full-time and make some changes so that you don't have to do that. Okay, so now I'm going to go into kind of getting through the holidays and things that you can think about. The first thing is you want to clearly know what you want to have the holiday look like for you, whether that's Christmas or some other holiday, that you set expectations, kind of figuring out what it is that you want to get through the holiday, kind of the enjoyment about being around your families and having fun for the holidays, as opposed to it being this kind of stressful chore kind of thing that you just get through. Maybe who's going to be sitting around at the table and how that feels for you, what it is you like to eat or what you want to eat for the holidays. Maybe finding times, to do some fun things with the kids, making Santa-shaped pancakes or something like that, all of those things could. So kind of figure out what it is, how you want to feel at the end of this next couple of months, and make sure that you make your kind of what you're doing in line with what that looks like for you, so that you can have an enjoyable holiday and still be able to work and maybe have a fun time, vacation or whatever with your kids. So learning to set boundaries, figure out what you're going to say yes to and what you have time to do, and figuring out what you need to say no to. So those are all things that you should think about over time, because you want to make sure that you are actually doing the things that are really important to you and saying no to things that you just can't do, that you don't want to do. So figure that out. and then try to avoid family conflict. So sometimes that's hard when you're around, family members that you don't see all the time, or there's conflict that happens naturally because of being so busy and all these things. So you want to think about how you can handle that. So if you have to decide ahead of time, maybe you don't want to do certain things because of the conflict that happens, or you just realize that maybe conflict will happen and you decide how you handle that. Kind of think about that ahead of time. So if something comes up, and you can decide what you're going to do in that moment when something comes up that you were maybe expecting but hoping that wouldn't happen this year. And maybe, think about, does it make you feel uncomfortable or awkward or embarrassed, or, if somebody's angry and using foul language, do you want to try to get your kids away from that situation? So you want to think about what you're willing to be involved in and what it is that you want to walk away from. So focusing on what you have control of, because you don't really have control over what other people will do or say. And so you want to think about what you have control of and how your thoughts and actions are in control at that time. So just kind of think about what could come up and what you want to say, and so that there's not kind of this angry exchange in the time, because then you already have a plan for what you're going to say or do. And then sometimes when we have stress, we kind of think about, what kind of role do I play in the situation? Is it possible for me to step back and maybe partly kind of diffuse that? Or if you're at someone else's house and maybe everyone's schedules are off kilter and people aren't getting enough sleep, or the diets are different and that makes it difficult to figure out, how to get through this situation. And so you want to kind of have, and if you need support, does your partner help support you in your feelings or how this goes? Or maybe you have another friend or family member that you can talk about, how we're going to handle this situation with your families or whatever. So everybody has different situations in the holidays, and you have to decide, are you going to do what you want to do, or is there something that you're just not willing to handle or take care of, or just decide that you're going to say, no, I'm not doing that kind of thing. I mean, there are tons of things that you can do over the holidays, different parties and different meals and those kind of things. And you just have to decide what it is that you really want to do in the moment, and whether that's really important enough for you to handle whatever comes up. So if your schedules are kind of off and you're not getting the sleep you need and those kinds of things, it makes it a little higher stress to be able to do the things that you're doing. So you want to think about that and how you're going to handle those situations. And maybe you can, stay in a hotel if you're out of town and visiting family members, so that you have a place to go that you can be on your own and go take a nap if you need to, or diffuse whatever's happening. So you want to kind of think about that too. And then, kind of limiting your time on social media. Sometimes social media, you see things and you're like, all of these perfect pictures or perfect situations, and not everybody's life is like that, and you hear things, a friend of yours goes to some party that you weren't invited to, and that makes things kind of uncomfortable for you when you hear something like that. Or if you are constantly on a screen when you're around people and don't interact with people, that's kind of hard too, because you're visiting someone that maybe you don't see very often, and you're spending all your time on your screen and not really interacting. So you want to think about that too, kind of limiting your social media to kind of reduce that kind of extra stress that you have for the holidays. And then the other thing you want to think about is kind of making a budget for Christmas or holidays that you're celebrating, and you know how much money you're going to spend. Are you going to go into debt for the holiday? Are you going to create boundaries about how much is in your account and this is what we're going to spend? So you want to look at that too, and talk to your significant other partners, you know, about what it is we want to spend for the holidays, and decide up front so that you have an idea. I know when our kids were younger, we used to always have what at that time was like a Christmas account, where every month throughout the year we put money into an account that by the end of the year we had a certain amount saved over the year. Then that's what we spent for at the holidays. So you know, you can think about something. I know it's kind of late to start that now, but maybe for next year, that would be something to think about, that you want to budget for what you want to spend at Christmas time, if that's the kind of what you need to do for your family. And you want to be careful about kind of things that you're eating, and don't load up on a bunch of sugar, or, you know, have a really different diet that you normally eat. I know when you go to someone's house, you don't really have that big of you can't change what someone else is going to be cooking for you, but you can think about, what is it that I absolutely want to have, and maybe take that with you, or watch how much sugar that you eat or your kids eat, so that they don't have upset stomachs, and, you know, just different ways of dealing with the different foods that you eat. You don't want to have this kind of anxiety produced because of the extra sugar content that you or your kids are eating. So kind of limit that. The insulin and blood sugar levels kind of go up, and can cause all these feelings that you have that make things a little bit worse when you're trying to deal with other family members and different schedules and that kind of thing. So you want to think about that too. And then you want to make sure that you're getting lots of sleep before you go to wherever you're going for holidays, or even if you're staying home and, you know, the kids are on a different schedule because they're off school, or you're with a different set of people over the holidays. So you want to make sure that you're getting the sleep you need. And if that means that you have to kind of not do something a couple of days around the holidays so that you can get some extra rest, or your kids can do that extra rest, you want to try to make sure that you're doing that so that you can get the rest and enjoy the holidays for yourself. Because you don't want to, you know, come into the first of the year and think about how terrible the holidays were for you, and you wish you had done something different. That's the reason I recommend that now is the time, you know, to think about, how do I want the holidays to go for me and my family? And that's the most important thing right now. And worrying about kind of all of the parties and the extended family and traveling and all of that, and just figure out how that will impact your families and whether you really want to do all of those things or not. So you want to get plenty of rest, make sure you're kind of eating pretty healthy throughout that time, staying healthy for yourself so that you can handle any of the stress that comes up. If you want to, you know, take a walk with your dog and look at the Christmas lights in the neighborhood, or drive around and look at Christmas lights, I kind of like to do that in our area. There's a couple of places that have a lot of Christmas lights, and that's something that I enjoy. So I go and do that. And so think about things that you would like to do. I know in this area in Ohio, there are a couple of zoos that have lights too for families, and they have these family events. So that may be something else you want to think about, kind of making memories with your families, and not focus so much on how many things you get for the kids for Christmas or those kinds of, or any other holidays. You want to make sure you protect the time that you're downtime. So protect the time that you're off. So if you're off work in the evenings, you don't want to fill up the evenings doing other things. So you just wear yourself out for the holidays. And, you know, when your kids are off school or you have the weekends, you know, don't fill up your weekends with a lot of things, because you really want to enjoy the time that you have with your families, and not fill up every single moment trying to fill in all of these fun things to do, We think that filling up and doing a ton of things and so the kids can have more memories about things, and I'm not sure that that really is what they want. You could talk to your kids and maybe they just want to spend time with you and not do a bunch of stuff. So that would be another area. Maybe you could sit with your families and figure out what it is that you want to do together and what you want to do separately if you have extended family that's close to you, and just figure out the way to have the holiday that you want. And then you want to, kind of making connections is probably one of the priorities that you should have for the holidays, making connections with your family members, with your spouse, so that you have an enjoyable holiday. Having connections with the people that you're around the most helps to have a stronger bond with the family that you have, and being sure to talk to your families about what it is that you want to do or how you want to spend each day, kind of figure out maybe, one day you're doing what one of your kids wants to do or your spouse, and then another day, another person gets to pick what to do for that day, and kind of figure out things that you like to do together as a family and do things that you all enjoy doing at a time when maybe it's, higher stress and trying to fit in all those things for the holidays and getting the decorations up and all of that. Maybe it doesn't have to be perfect this year. Maybe, cut out some of those extra things that you normally did in the past that just made the holiday really hard. And think about, sometimes doing less is the best, because then the kids don't get tired and you don't get tired. And when you're not getting the rest or not having that downtime for yourself, it just makes it harder. The stress levels go up and you get more anxious, and tempers rise easier when you have all of those things happening. So, just trying to cut down on the amount of things that you're doing, and realize that you don't really have to do a million things to have a good holiday season. That's the reason you want to think about what it is that you want to have in the holidays, how you enjoy the holidays, and what's important to you. If it's important to you to spend time with your extended family and do, whatever travel to do that, then do that. But if it's not that important to you, maybe decide that you're just not going to do that this year, and you're just going to stay home and spend time with your immediate family, just so you have the holiday, have a good time with your family. So I think, the biggest thing in all of this is to just make sure that you are doing what you want to do and not what other people expect you to do. I think as females, as women in society, we are so conditioned that we should just do what other people tell us to do, and maybe not have as much control over being able to say no. It's not polite to say no, or not polite to, kind of talk back to someone. That's kind of how we've been conditioned. And I think it's time to make that transition to, I get to choose how my life is, and what I can do for myself and what I want for my family. So I think that's the biggest thing with the holidays, is to just decide, how it is that you want your holiday to be. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, you can always leave a message down in the comments, and just let me know if you have any questions or want to talk further. I'm always open to talking to anyone that wants to talk further about what's going on in their lives, or if you have some goals that you want to talk about for the next few weeks, just message me and we can always do that. Okay, see you next week.